I'm going to walk through the Leica Rugby 620 rotary laser the way most of us approach a tool that could end up on a job site for years, not just a weekend DIY project. If you've ever stood in a rough-in layout and wondered whether the laser you're eyeing will actually cut down the number of trips you make with a level, a tape, and a calculator, you're not alone. The hesitation usually comes from two places: the price tag and the fear of ending up with a laser that sounds great on paper but turns out to be a hassle when you need it most. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What separates the Rugby 620 from a generic rotary laser is the self-leveling feature combined with a manual slope option, all wrapped in a single-axis design that Leica markets for increasing productivity in leveling applications. That claim is worth unpacking because productivity gains only happen if the tool fits the workflow you actually run on a daily basis. Let's start with the kind of work where the Rugby 620 shines. I've seen it used on medium-scale construction sites where a crew needs to establish a consistent grade across a slab, a road subbase, or a large landscaping project. The self-leveling mechanism means you set the laser up on a tripod, press the level button, and within seconds it finds a true horizontal plane. That eliminates the manual fine-tuning you'd have to do with a non-self-leveling unit, which in practice can shave 5 to 10 minutes off each setup time that adds up over a day of work. When you need to lay out a series of reference points for concrete pours, the ability to lock in that level and walk the line with a detector is a real time saver. The manual slope function is where the Rugby 620 gets a little more nuanced. If your job requires a consistent 2% slope for drainage, you can engage the manual slope and input the desired gradient. The laser will then rotate at that angle while still maintaining its rotation speed and beam visibility. In the field, I've heard contractors appreciate that you don't have to constantly measure a slope with a separate level or calculator. You set it once and the laser does the heavy lifting. The trade-off, however, is that you need to be comfortable with the slope setup procedure. There's a small learning curve to make sure the angle is correctly entered and that the device is stable before you start the run. Now, who should seriously consider the Rugby 620? First, professionals who run regular leveling task site supervisors, concrete foremen, grading specialists, and landscape architects will find the self-leveling and manual slope features align with their recurring needs. If you already have a Leica ecosystem like a Leica detector or a data capture app, the Rugby 620 integrates smoothly, letting you pull readings directly into your workflow. Second, if you're buying a laser primarily for one-off projects, the upfront cost may outweigh the productivity boost, especially when cheaper single-axis rotary lasers can do the basics without the self-leveling motor. On the flip side, there are clear reasons to skip it. The Rugby 620 isn't a multi-axis laser, so if your work demands simultaneous vertical and horizontal reference planes, think complex building facades or large-scale terrain modeling, you'll still need a separate instrument. Also, the self-leveling motor consumes more battery than a simple pendulum-based level. If you're often on sites without easy power access, you'll have to budget for extra batteries or a larger charger, which adds to the total cost of ownership. Finally, because the unit is built for precision, it's a bit heavier than the ultra-lightweight budget models. That matters if you're the only person carrying it up ladders or scaffolding. Let's talk about the practical strengths that become apparent once you have the laser in your tool bag. The beam is visible even in bright daylight, which is a common pain point with cheaper rotary lasers that fade under the sun. The rotary speed is steady, so the detector picks up a clean signal without the jitter you sometimes get from lower-cost units. In real-world terms, that translates to fewer false readings and less time double-checking points. Another strength is durability. Leica devices are engineered for the kind of rough handling you see on a construction site: dropped, knocked, exposed to dust, so you can count on it surviving the daily wear and tear. Weaknesses are subtler but worth mentioning. The manual slope setting uses a numeric input dial, which can be a little finicky when you're wearing gloves. You need to double-check that the number you entered matches the slope you intended, otherwise you'll end up with a subtle but costly error in drainage grading. Also, because the laser is self-leveling, it requires a level surface for the tripod to sit on. On uneven ground, you'll need to shim the base or use a longer tripod leg, adding a small setup step that a non-self-leveling laser would skip. If you're still on the fence, picture your next job. Imagine you have to lay out a 500-meter line for a new driveway with a 1.5% slope to ensure water runoff.